everyone. Welcome to the Auburn School Committee meeting for January 7th, 2026. Call this meeting to order. This meeting is being conducted in person and is being recorded by the Auburn Cable Television. All are welcome to join us in person here at 5 West Street. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the Auburn Public School website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Thank you. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
The vision of the Auburn Public Schools is to educate and prepare students for the opportunities and challenges of a changing world. Our commitment: we will create, maintain, and support an environment that fosters a sense of belonging for all students in our schools, respecting race, color, sex, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, homelessness, poverty, spoken language, and ability.
Okay, thank you. Do we have people here for citizens' comments tonight? Okay. So per school committee policy BEDH, speakers will be allowed up to 3 minutes to present their material and must begin their comments by stating their name and town precinct. The public comment section shall not exceed 15 minutes, and all speakers are encouraged to present their comments in a respectful manner. Topics for discussion should be limited to those items within the school committee's scope of authority, review, and approval of the school district budget, the performance of the superintendent, and the policies of the district.
So before I comment, I just have a question.
Just at the mic, just so we can hear you.
We need your name and precinct, too, please.
I'm not sure I know that. My name is Eric Richards. I'm a stranger here. I live in Auburn. I think I'm in precinct 4. I'm not sure. I'm confused sometimes. You have an agenda item about a topic of some concern, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. So my question for the chair is, will there be question and answer through the agenda item of the topic of concern relating to student accounts and other school committee policy activities, or are we relegating this to the 3-minute window only at this time?
We're open for citizens' comment only. We do not go back and forth with people in the audience because of open meeting laws. So we will be having a conversation between us.
Open meeting law does allow participation from anybody about an agenda item that's a topic of consideration of something that's already on the agenda. Other boards do so. But absolutely at your discretion. So limited to public comment?
Go for it.
All right. Ladies, you're all awesome. You're amazing people. You serve, you work,
3 minutes. Yeah. I did. Okay.
you're here, and that's commendable. I personally have no issue with any of you, personally. I do, however, have some issue with the way you have conducted yourselves in your roles. I have some issue with policies that haven't been followed, and I have many issues with accounting differences and variances and other things. Now, you should have before you, if you don't, a significant list of questions that I'd submitted to be answered. I don't expect them to be answered tonight. However, I think the record reflects that this is a logical, viable area of concern, that you all, in your tenure, have rules that you haven't followed. It's demonstrably true, for whatever reason, and those things happen. What I'm not hearing, or haven't heard yet, maybe in the agenda it will come up, is where the accountability is going to be. Who's responsible? What has happened? And who's going to solve it? On what objective timeline? And by what measures? And what are the consequences if there are problems that involve wrongdoing? If there are no problems that involve wrongdoing, again, what are the consequences? And how are you going to improve yourselves so that you are able to serve better? That's it. Pretty easy. For now.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Alan Rafferty, Precinct 1. Mr. Richards is correct. If public comment, you can open up discussion with someone in the audience if there is an agenda item. You don't have to limit it to the 3 minutes. And I'm also here to recommend that the subject matter you're discussing tonight may involve some actions on the part of Mr. Richards, and this is your opportunity to have a dialogue with him. So I highly recommend that during your agenda item that you open it up to discussion with him in the interest of full transparency, which I've always fought for. And I would hope that educated people here on the school committee would understand how important transparency is. So once again, I highly recommend that you open it up to a discussion with Mr. Richards so that the public can be better informed. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Okay, we'll move on to special recognitions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This evening, we'd like to recognize Valerie Cotter. Valerie was a retired, longtime Bryn Mawr teacher who passed away on January 2nd, 2026, after a valiant fight with cancer. Val began her work in the Auburn Public Schools in 1985, retiring in 2019. Val was assigned to the Mary D. Stone School, Julia Bancroft, and ended and did the most of her career in education at Bryn Mawr School. She was a master teacher, mentor, and colleague. She had a heart of gold, and she was unbelievably generous. She cared deeply about her students, and they knew she would do all she could to ensure their success. Val had a great sense of humor. She cared deeply about her Bryn Mawr family. I had the privilege to work with Val at Bryn Mawr. As a new principal, she helped to guide the development of my leadership style, and she demonstrated enormous care, support, and concern for me when facing some challenging personal events with my family. There will never be another Val Cotter. She was beautiful both inside and out, and she will be missed by many, many people. And I would ask that we have a moment of silence in Val's honor. Thank you.
I'm sorry for your loss and the district's loss. All right, we'll seek a motion for the approval of the minutes from December 16th and December 17th.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from December 16th, 2025 and December 17th, 2025.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's vote. No student reps tonight. We'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Due to the snow day that was called late today, I did ask that we move the student spotlight to another evening, so that's why they're not here tonight. I didn't think it was right to have them come out this evening.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to unfinished business.
First item on unfinished business is the FY27 draft budget. This is the evening, if anyone has any questions remaining. We've revisited the draft budget several times over the last number of meetings. It is required by us now to move a draft forward at this time to the town, per town charter. So if there are questions, I'm happy to entertain. Mrs. Stanek can answer anything. And if not, we would need to move forward with a vote to send it on to the town.
Okay, do we have any questions or discussion?
Through the chair, does it look promising at the town level that they'll approve it?
I will hope that I don't know they'll approve it at where it's at.
Okay.
I think we start earlier than all of the other departments because of the size of our budget. I suspect that we may have to look for an additional cut, but I hope not, because we've already, I think, in this one cut a number of positions. I shouldn't say cut, not filling.
Right.
In order to meet the budget requirements, but I am hopeful because we have been very thoughtful about what we've put into this budget, so.
And this had the final, through the chair, that extra money that we had, that we got a bus and we approved the van and like all of that is.
That's a separate, that's a grant.
That one was different.
That's an
Okay.
earmark grant.
Okay.
So that wouldn't be reflected here.
Okay, so it's just what we had already discussed and talked about
Correct.
before. Okay, great.
Correct.
Yep.
Any more questions or discussion? All right, we ready to move this on then? Make motion.
Make a motion to vote to approve and send forward to the town the FY27 budget as presented by the superintendent.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's a vote. All right, we'll move on to new business.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the first item in new business, if you saw when you came to your seats, I had put aside the 2 audits to the side of your packet so that you didn't have to go digging through them. That's why they were kind of set off, because we are going to talk about those a little bit. But before I begin, I just want to say that as we talk about this, I want to admit that there are some things that we could have handled better as we've moved forward with this process. So Mrs. Stanek and her team have been working on student activities accounts for quite some time. And I wish now that I'd brought this forward to you as just a general update in the fall to say that we were working on it, and I didn't, because I was hoping that we would now be presenting some sort of a solution. And we are close to that, but we're not there yet. So I apologize for that error on my part. We really wanted to have this wrapped up, but it is a very complicated situation going back many years. And I won't go on until I'm able to thank Mrs. Stanek for the work that she and her team have done thus far. They inherited this situation. They did not create the situation. And she has been unwilling to let the errors persist. So I think we should appreciate those efforts. And this is difficult. It's difficult for everyone. But we are working diligently to create a system that corrects the mistakes of the past, that creates a structure where we have procedures that can be followed, that can easily be followed, that are documented, so that this doesn't happen down the line. So to frame this issue, I just want to start by saying the problem at its base for student activities accounts, we have these spreadsheets for each club, the sub-accounts, right? So for each club or NHS or whatever it might be, they have their own spreadsheet where we track what they have for money. The balance, the total balance of those spreadsheets at the high school and middle school didn't match what we had for money in the bank, right? We all know we balance what we balance, right? What we show in our list and our ledger should match what the bank actually says we had. So when Mrs. Stanek reviewed the 2024 audit, she was committed to saying, we can't let this go on. Right? The audit clearly spells out, and we can look at that there was like a $20,000, if we're just talking about the high school right now, about a $20,000 variance. And so in our urgency to make these things match, there were audit adjustments that were made, right? So that this total of the spreadsheets now match the bank. And it was done, that could have been handled better, as I say in my next line, right? We didn't withdraw any money. We didn't take money from these accounts to put anywhere else. We simply adjusted the balances so that what was in the spreadsheet matched the bank. In hindsight, we could have delayed those adjustments, right? Because right now, what Mrs. Stanek and her team have been doing is they've gone back to 2019 with the spreadsheets. We have all the transactions that have been entered into Munis, and we have our bank statements. And they've been working to meticulously go through to make sure that there weren't error, right? A spreadsheet is an easy thing to make a mistake in, right? You transpose a number, you put a number in a wrong column, you enter a number in a wrong sheet, which can happen. So they've been going through to see where all of those errors are. And in hindsight, again, that's probably what we should have done first. But in subsequent meetings, and we hope at the next meeting, we'll have at least 1 or 2 of those accounts, because what we want to do now is Mrs. Stanek has what she sees as the balance of these, the list of transactions, where what was originally reflected in the spreadsheet, where there's a variance because it's now been found through going through Munis, and we want to sit with each of the advisors and say, what do you have for records? Does this all make sense to you? These are what all these adjustments are for. She can prove what the deposit was for and what the withdrawal was for. I think one of the areas, like we noticed today, or yesterday, one of the things we were looking at was they made a deposit for the prom, right? So there was a check cut for $2,500 as a deposit to give to the Ace Hotel. In the spreadsheet, it was put in the deposit column, because I'm sure whoever was doing that at that time said, well, it's a deposit. I'm going to put it in the deposit column. but it was a deposit to the hotel. So it was not a deposit. It was a withdrawal to put this money on for the hotel. So those are some of the things that we come across. That's human error, right? So she's been working diligently to go through all that. And as we meet with the advisors, we're going to have the spreadsheets going back to 2019. We'll meet with them and then we'll present those one at a time to you on each of those sub-accounts. So you can see where the variance was, you can see where the errors were that were found. And we can at that point meet with the advisor to come to an agreement, right? To say, yes, we agree that this is the balance in that account. And it's been a ton of work.
So hold on. Are you saying that there's no money missing because the money never existed?
We don't believe there's any money missing. We believe that there were lots of mistakes made. Lots of human error mistakes that seem to result in this money not kind of jiving.
And not
the
at the fault of us or our business manager.
No, I mean, Jen inherited this. All of these go back she didn't start till 2024. So she took seriously the results of the 2024 audit, and that's what has led to all of this. Now, the reason things didn't happen more quickly, and I don't want to get ahead of myself because it's dicey, but we're going to talk about what the town had to do first. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a minute because that's a big key in that. That's what has kind of pushed this off a bit because the town had to figure out what exactly was the balance first that we needed to really prove to. But I'm going to go through that more from the audit in a second. So once we get through the high school, we will do the middle school as well. And concurrently, in the next few documents we're going to look at, Mrs. Stanek, with the help of our auditor, has been developing, refining, improving the processes and procedures by which student activities are run. So at both the high school and the middle school, there is a secretary and there is that kind of is considered the treasurer of the student activity accounts at that school. So they help manage all of the in and out and what goes in the spreadsheet, along with the principal, who is also responsible for that. So if you look at this first document with the next section with the black line at the top and the bottom, that's in the packet, right? It's got the black line at the top. So just again, so some of this will be redundant, but I think it's important to kind of go through this somewhat methodically. So the 2018 and 2024 audit reports that are in here should have been shared with the committee when they happened. And again, that was before Mrs. Stanek. They were not. So they are in your packets for your review. I have to get mine out.
Now, I want to interject. I have to say, as chair, this falls on me a bit. I should have known, but I have to say I'm the last man standing of the first 5 when I joined. I only did what the people before me did, and I only knew what they taught me. You're the 3rd superintendent. No one else before brought this stuff forward. So
The chair, you weren't the chair in 2018.
I wasn't.
That wasn't
and
you.
I also inherited this as the chair.
Right.
So continue. Thank you.
So those were not shared. But in the 28 audit report, it does note that student activities were not regularly reconciled. In that audit report, it doesn't give an amount that it was off. It just says that they were not regularly reconciled. And when we spoke with our auditor about it, Mrs. Stanek, please jump in if I'm saying anything out of turn. He said, yes, sometimes they do that and they make an adjustment to make it work and they don't necessarily reflect it in the audit itself. And that's probably what happened in 2018.
Through the chair, it was 2 different auditors that wrote those reports, and at times the auditors will write up their reports a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So they'll make some of the adjustments and not write in what the variance was. And that's what happened with the 2018 audit with Scanlon and Associates, because I spoke to both the auditor that did the 2018 and the auditor that did the 2024 audit.
So through the chair, if they find like a $2 difference, they'll just change it?
They'll correct it in their report.
Oh, okay.
Now, differently, the 2024 audit noted that the Auburn High School student activity account had a $21,170.65 variance, and again, was not regularly reconciled. So overall, the reconciliation of those spreadsheets was not being completed on a regular basis to ensure that the balance of the spreadsheet matched Munis and the bank statements, right? It's complicated, yet it's simple in its beauty, right? Like things should match. Since Mrs. Stanek began looking at it, we have found formula errors, missing entries, incorrect entries, and duplicate entries throughout the spreadsheets. So a deposit might have been recorded twice. Things like that. So, and we'll go on because she's addressing a lot of these. So what's been done? So upon review of the 2024 audit, the town was informed of the reconciliation that they needed to complete. So if you pull out the high school, which one do I want? Auburn High School. So one of these audit reports has Auburn High School on the front, and go to page 6.
Now, will these be public record for people to look at?
They're already posted.
Okay.
Yep, they're
The
there.
one with the writing on it, Dr. Chamberlain? Or without the writing on it?
No, it's the 2024.
Okay.
It's page 6. It says high school 2024.
Yep, got it.
Starts with variance on agency account.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So I am going to read this, even though it's, dry as toast. As of May 31st, 2024, the bank account for the agency account in the custody of the town treasurer, the agency account referring to what we call the money we have for student activities, had a balance of $380,435.02. The town's general ledger had a balance of $143,894.14 for the agency account, which results in a difference of $236,540.88. Included, oh, my guys are going crazy here. Included in this amount is $102,949.67 from expenses paid in April and May of 2024 that have not yet been transferred from the agency account to reimburse the town's general checking account for student activity funds expenses paid from the town's checking account. This leaves an unidentified variance of $133,575.72, which may be attributed to the town treasurer's office not making transfers in prior fiscal years to reimburse the town for student activity fund expenses paid from the town's checking account. So the way it works, so they have this $300,000 that was in our student activity account. And the town was saying it was that they only had $143,000 from us. The way it works is when we pay an expenditure for a student activity account, right? We pay something through a warrant. Maybe, prom's not a good example. Buses for a field trip. The town pays that bill through the warrant, and then they take the money from the agency account,
Student
to
activity.
cover that, right? Because that's where it's coming from. There's 11th grade is going on a field trip. It's coming out of their, it could be the 11th grade, going on a field trip, they have to pay that. So the auditors worked with the town to rectify that. And we know that there had been a history of, they call those swipes, the transfers at the town are called swipes, that they weren't done regularly. Now, the auditor has since recommended to them that swipes, those transfers to cover expenditures, should happen when the warrant goes to the town. So you just sign those warrants tonight, right? So if there's anything in there, they should then be making the transfer. And we've spoken with the town accountant, and she agrees. I shouldn't say that, CFO. So that, because I know there was a lot of talk about that. There is not $130,000 missing. It was late accounting errors that they've rectified on their end. That is not something that we would have rectified. That's up to them to do those transfers. And that has been, from our understanding and from that of the auditor, has been rectified appropriately.
Which took them almost a year, correct?
It took them a very long time. So that went until like late in January of 2025.
Correct.
Before that was all cleaned up. Does that make sense to everybody? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mrs. Stanek has updated the procedures manual for student activities, which has come before you. There was some update with some forms that was done. Did that come here or no?
I couldn't find it in my minutes. I'm not sure
Okay.
if it did.
Through the chair, the procedures manual and the forms do not have to come through school committee, but anything that had school committee policy does.
So the policy does, but the manual didn't come to us because I noticed it did say like approved, but it's not approved by us. It's central office or whoever.
That is correct.
Okay.
She is also, so previously we were using Google Sheets for accounting purposes, obviously, because they're shareable. But every accountant will recommend that you use Excel and not use Google Sheets. So we've now moved to Excel with a checkbook template. This was at the recommendation of the auditor. Mrs. Stanek did speak with him about potentially the purchase of some kind of a program. Would that help us? And he said, any program is only as good as the manual entry that goes into it. So just as easily as making 2 deposit entries in a spreadsheet, you can make the same 2 deposit entries in some kind of a accounting program.
And the Google Sheets she inherited from
Correct.
Cecilia.
Through the chair, and you may choose to put this question off for a few minutes, and that's fine with me. What is the protocols for, I have a club and I do a fundraising and I make $1,000. What's the next steps? Like, do I sign a form? I know how I do it right now in my school. I would like to know how they do it in Auburn.
That's a good question.
Yep, through the chair. In order to have a student activity club, first the club has to be approved by the principal and by the superintendent per the.
Let's assume that's all
So
true
it's
already.
it's approved.
I have my club, let's call it.
They have to have their club
Rockets.
approved. They have to have their fundraiser approved.
Okay, so
Once
everything's
those
been
things
approved.
have happened, then what they would do is they would take the deposit form that comes along with it, and they would have to complete the deposit form. They would, depending on if there's cash or how that happens, if there's a student treasurer for that club, the student treasurer would need to count the money. 2 class advisors need to count that money. All of that is recorded on the deposit sheet. Then it's all brought to the student activity treasurer at the building.
Okay.
And then the student activity treasurer logs it into the sub accounts in the spreadsheets for that, and then creates the turn-in sheets, which are turn-in sheets that is also almost another deposit form. Those turn-in sheets are then utilized by the town.
Does each
But that's,
club have like a certain number associated with it?
do they have a number? No, because all these sub accounts are all part of one student activity agency account.
So then we are figuring out, we're figuring out that like my club, let's call it Rockets, if like I don't have just like, even if we assign a number to them, like I know my club is like 9106. But like, even though it's part of a bigger account, I still have a number associated with it. Is that
I think she's talking about.
just to decipher?
They all have names.
Yeah.
And they all have separate tabs in this spreadsheet. So we don't
Okay,
keep
okay, that
everything
makes-
together.
okay.
So
I just
there's a
wanna make
separate
sure.
tab
Okay,
for
there's a
each
separate
club.
tab.
A separate
Yes,
tab.
everything's
Okay.
separate.
With the
And so
name.
that's when we say sub-account.
Okay.
That's what we're talking
Because
about.
that's what was confusing me, because I'm like, how do you decipher what happens if the
yeah.
secretary like mixes something up? At least now, okay.
No, and in the deposit slip, they have to have the name of their club.
Yeah.
and that-
The name of the club is on the deposit slip. The name of the club is on the turn-in sheet to the town, so that that happens. So once the student activity treasurer, which is one of the secretaries at the building, they finish there and do the double check of counting the money and everything again, they send it over to accounts payable. She reviews everything and gets it ready to send up to town, to the town hall.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so the checkbook template was set up. An annual training has been taking place and will continue to take place. So anybody involved with student accounts, they learn about the deposit forms and what they need to do. Monthly activity, the student activity meetings have been scheduled with the principal and secretary at both the middle school and the high school with Mrs. Stanek and myself, because until this all gets straightened out, we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So, because the vast responsibility for student activities accounts does fall at the school level. They're supposed to be making sure that what they're doing is correct. But at the point we're at, the schools need some guidance and we need to be assured that things are going as they're supposed to. So there are monthly meetings to kind of go through what happens each month on those accounts. Okay, now the town reconciled, right? So they did their reconciliation.
One thing, can we have a record that these meetings are actually taking place?
Sure.
Okay,
We
like
can track
just
those.
the dates or whatever.
Yep. We'll do a sign-in sheet.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so now the town reconciled. And again, there was some urgency to stop the errors from continuing. And so we made these audit adjustments so that the spreadsheet total matched the funds in the bank. We held meetings with middle school and high school. We had a number of individual meetings to support advisors at that time. We've consulted with the town manager, the accountant, the treasurer. We did seek legal advice to see if there were any additional steps we should be taking, given the situation that we were in. We were advised that there were not. We requested that the auditor return to review our policies and procedures and to review our reconciliation process to make sure that we were doing everything as it should be done. And starting some time ago, the treasurer at each building provides monthly supports to the advisor. So a monthly report, they print out what's happened on the account and they show the advisor, this is everything I have recorded, so that there's another double check kind of at the same, in current times, so that people aren't forgetting, right? So every month, these advisors are now looking at these accounts to make sure what is there is accurate. And so right now, as I mentioned before, Jen and her team are going through an item by item audit going back to 2019 of every deposit and every expenditure to make sure that things were applied the right way, that they weren't errors in the spreadsheet with transposing numbers, or like I mentioned about putting a withdrawal in a deposit column or whatever it might be. And once that's all done, we will have those individual sub-account reports to share with you to show what the variances, what variances were found. When Jen met with the auditor to review the procedures that we had in place, to look at the reconciliation process, they were very pleased with what we shared with them and what they saw. The problem now is correcting the errors of the past. But I believe that what we have in place is what we should be doing. And that's what they're telling us we should be doing. So moving forward, again, that monthly reconciliation will be done by the treasurers, reviewed by the business manager, and shared with the advisors. Well, this same thorough internal audit will be done with the middle school once the high school is complete. The high school is by far the vast majority of these. The middle school is a much smaller number. Individual meetings are going to be held with each advisor to review the transaction history and update the balances. A thorough annual internal audit will be conducted by the business manager each year unless it's the year that an external audit is done. So the external audits are required every 3 years. And that will be shared with you at the end of each year.
And is that just a sampling audit or is that a full audit?
The external one?
Yeah.
It's a sampling audit. And that's what we're recommended to do. So that's not our choice. We didn't say we want a sample and not a thorough.
And that's what the town does as well?
I don't know what the town, I can't speak for the town.
And through the chair, the reason why there was a prolonged period without the external audit was because COVID happened.
Correct. Correct. And that, we were not alone in that. Most places didn't have them done during that.
Wasn't
Yeah.
one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we're also implementing is, so what we find, particularly with some of the class accounts, particularly the senior class, is that we don't get bills. We get bills in the summer because they do a lot of things at the end of the school year. So what will happen now is before the school year starts or right at the start of the school year, Mrs. Stanek or the treasurer at the building is going to verify and sign off with each advisor that they agree on the starting balance of the account every single year. So I think that's going to mitigate a lot of confusion and ultimately errors because there will be so many other people looking for them, right? So we won't be finding as many down the road. Annual reports will be provided to the school committee, each September, and an external audit will be scheduled for 2027, even though we continue to be in consult with the auditor. So I guess, I believe we've done a tremendous amount of work. There have been hours and hours and hours that have been put into all of this. And again, we still have a lot to share with you with how this all shakes out at the end and what each account looks like. And we will do that as we move forward. So this isn't the first time you're going to see student activities on the agenda, and it certainly isn't the last. So we'll continue to come back to this so that there'll be more specific questions. And again, I think the advisors will bring a lot to this too as we have those conversations with them.
And I think in the future, I know you were just doing what you were taught to do from the person before you. I think we need to make sure as a group that we're getting all the documents that we deserve to get, that we need to get.
Yep.
So that we're all on the same page.
Yep.
So through the chair, just for clarification purposes, right now we see the Schedule B on page 8 where it's all what's in the balance as of May 31st, 2024. And you're going through now and looking to see where you can find the problem. So there might be hypothetically in the class of 2025, it says 27,651, but someone might have hit a wrong button and it's really 23.
Correct.
Okay. And so you'll show us that when that
Exactly.
occurs. Okay.
And we'll be able to show you how it happened. Like what was the triggering event? Like that $2,500 deposit. So the deposit has to be backed out, but then the expenditure's got to be put in.
So it's really double.
So now they're in the whole $5,000.
Correct.
So
So that's the tricky part to that. But we'll be able to show you what those are.
through the chair, what happens if we still have a variance after we've done all this work?
Well, we're going to cross that bridge when we come to it. We're going to cross that bridge. I think we're going to be a heck of a lot closer than we are now. And I think we have people that can guide us and help us to figure that out. But we're going to know soup to nuts what's happened till 2019. One of the big variables in this is that the balances that came forward in 2019, we don't have fully complete records to go back any further than that to know if those balances were what they were supposed to be. So that could ultimately be part of the problem.
So through the chair, we said that at the beginning, things could have definitely been done differently. We are going to meet with each one of those advisors this time around, not just the group.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, correct. As long as they'll meet with us.
Yes.
Yes,
And-
before any money's moved or anything.
Yes.
Like all stakeholders brought in.
Direct conversations.
Yep.
So I noticed that some balances went to zero. That doesn't mean the club is null and void, because that would have to come through either the advisor or us.
Correct. And we're going to talk
Okay.
about that. So we have some that will come before you at the next meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
So I was just surprised that I know
The chair, you're talking
art
about
club.
clubs that don't exist?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like there's a middle school art club, but the high school art club isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weird. Okay. Through the chair, just a couple things that I was reading, and I didn't read everything, but things like teacher stipends, ABA stipends at games. Does that come out of student activities?
No. Well, so that goes to, so I have that to address at the end with some questions that have come up.
Okay.
So that goes to unified, right? We have a unified sports
Yeah.
and we have a unified sports revolving account.
Okay.
A revolving account is different, and you jump in because student activities is focused on fundraising funds. That's when you put money in student activities primarily. Whereas a revolving, in the case of unified, I know several years ago there was, and this was maybe a while ago, but there was money that we got back from Special Olympics, right? That goes into a revolving account. Now, the purpose of that funding can only be related to unified sports because it's in the unified sports revolving account. So monies from that was used to pay the stipends of the ABAs that they get paid when they go to the basketball games and work with a student, or the bocce games that they go. And that was outlined when we received the money from Special Olympics. That was outlined as one of the appropriate uses of those funds.
Okay, so that wasn't a student activities account.
Correct.
That was the revolving account.
That was a revolving account. So that's why you don't see unified here, because it isn't a student activity account.
Okay, separate from like Rockets to Rockets.
Correct.
Rockets to Rockets is,
Separate, yes. And so we also have like an athletics revolving account, right? So our ticket sales from the football games go into an athletic revolving account. Again, those funds can only be used toward athletics, right? Likewise, we have a fine arts revolving account, ticket sales to the play. The funds from that can only be used toward fine art
Right.
associated things. And that is how they are used.
Okay, great.
Okay. So I don't want to go, I mean, I will go line by line if we go to the next page. So the next page says student activities 24-25 internal audit submitted by Mrs. Stanek. So this is something, again, that the committee should receive, and I don't know, Jen, if you want to talk about that a little bit, but how you set this up and maybe just go through the corrective actions taken, even though you're going to hear that some of the actions taken we've already discussed a little bit. But you want to take that a little bit, Jen?
Sure. So for the first audit, what I had done was I took all of the recommendations. So all the recommendations that you see in the internal audit were the recommendations given from the external audit for 2024. So the first one talks about having an audit by an outside independent firm, and then also the business manager doing the internal audit. So the corrective actions taken for that were that I had reviewed the FY 2024 audit report. I notified the superintendent, town manager, town accountant, and town treasurer of the audit findings, and I do apologize. It had been done in May, so I assumed that you had received it. So I know moving forward that you will receive all of the audit reports. I worked with a tenured area business manager, who was my mentor, as well as supports through MASBO, through my professional support group, to review the findings and make sure I was taking the appropriate steps to make those corrections. I met quarterly throughout the school year of 24-25 with the town treasurer, along with my accounts payable assistant, to review and strengthen the internal review and the reconciliation process. It's quite a complicated process, quite honestly, that needs to be happening between the accounting system, the bank statements, and I wanted to ensure that we were able to understand how they were coming about those numbers. And again, worked with my accounts payable assistant to work on reconciling the student activity funds. And we were able to reconcile the bank statements, the checking and the savings to our Munis accounting system. And then we have continued work on reconciling the sub-account spreadsheets, because there's those three things that need to balance. And the spreadsheets did not match what we had in the bank.
And that's the problem we're still unraveling.
And still
You see
trying.
that all connecting.
Finding number 2 was around the accounting system, and this recommendation was right from the audit report. And again, this happened to do with the town treasurer. So again, met quarterly with the town treasurer to review and improve our reconciliation process. We were then able to reconcile our bank statements to the town's ledger, and I worked collaboratively to ensure we had the accurate postings. We were doing the swipes, the transfers, and making sure those were happening. And we implemented ongoing monitoring and reconciliation procedures to identify and correct discrepancies in a timely manner. And that those things have been corrected, and of course will still be ongoing. Next, it talks about the town bank statement as the town general ledger. This finding number 3 was done at the town level. I had been meeting with them and coordinating with them to come to a resolution. They needed to work with Scanlon and Associates to rectify that, and it was fully cleared on January 31st, 2025. Another finding happened to be with the deposit and withdrawal forms. And so I had met with the principals both at Auburn High School and Auburn Middle School to share the findings and to let them know how the documentation was missing and needed to be, make sure it was used on a regular basis. And then I met with all the student activity treasurers. Now this is the beginning, not the beginning of this year. This was the beginning of the prior year.
Yeah.
Had met with them to talk about the very, how important it was to have those deposit and withdrawal slips with every transaction. And I did do a training as, there needs to be an annual training. I did do the training with the Auburn Middle School staff to review all the procedures. And then Mr. DeLongchamp was going to review the procedures with his staff. And then we talked about a better detailed deposit procedures. I had to tighten those up a little bit more to just ensure, because at the time, Bay State Savings Bank was the bank for Auburn High School student activities and was right in the bank. So the student activity treasurer at the time was making the deposits right into the bank, and they weren't going through to come here and all of that. So I had to make sure we tightened those up. Then the last recommendation was, again, for ongoing training. I provided the student activity treasurers training separate, just for the treasurers who are in charge of the spreadsheets. I reviewed the procedures with the school administrators and the staff. I also reviewed school committee policies, the MASC policies, other districts' procedures, so we could align with best practices. And then during last year, I created the Google form to track and approve our student fundraisers. Student fundraisers always needed approval. We just wanted to tighten up our system. So that was implemented to begin this school year. And then I also scheduled multiple trainings to begin this school year and notified staff of the expectations. And that's something that will happen annually.
And if I can just jump in, the Google form for tracking fundraiser, that was something that we had talked about, right, with one of the policies. It's actually working beautifully. So both Mr. DeLongchamp and I have alerts when somebody enters something into the spreadsheet, so there's no delay. So if they put it in, and most of the time in a day or two, it's approved. And honestly, I haven't not approved any, but it is really helpful to me to know what's going on as far as fundraisers go, so.
Are there any questions for the FY 25 internal audit that I had conducted and the corrective actions I took based on the external audits?
Any questions?
Okay. So now what you have is I've already started a preliminary internal audit. I have been auditing since I received the 2024 audit, so we could get ourselves in a good place. So this is just the continuation of that work, and you will receive the final audit, which I will conduct in July when the fiscal year closes, and then you'll receive those annually in July, and I will share those out at the start of each school year.
Through the chair, if you find a mistake, then you will notify us at that meeting and then how you remedied it. If there is a problem, you can quickly figure out where the problem is.
I'm sorry. So
when you
if I
close
find
it-
an error, you would
Yeah.
want me to bring that right to you?
No. I'm saying at that final, once you close everything out, that's when you would be automatically alerted to any mistake or any problem, and then you would find that, you could easily find where the problem is what I'm saying.
If there was
an issue.
If there was an issue, it is my hope that our monthly reconciliation is going to eliminate any problems there, that we can just go back, oh, it wasn't 10 cents, it was, $1.
And what I'm hoping for is that we don't add on to any variance over a long period of time like we did in the past.
Exactly. That's why we're looking at the monthly meetings with the principal and the treasurer, the monthly reconciliations, and then also in here, there's also a munis report that's given to the treasurer at each school, so that they're reconciling to munis each month
Okay,
as
so if
well.
there's a misstep on the typing,
It would be in that final month.
should be caught very quickly.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yes, we're hoping to catch it almost real time.
Yeah.
Yes. So what I have found was, in my finding number one, is there's spreadsheet errors and transaction omissions. So my recommendation obviously was to review 24, 25 transactions for accuracy and correct any errors in deposits, withdrawals, and formulas, and reconcile the spreadsheet balances with Munis. So the corrective actions were, I did review all of those. We did correct any mistakes that had happened, fixed formula errors and entry errors. And so what I had also found was something as new spreadsheets were made for the next year. So say I'm NHS and I have $50 when I ended 24. That $50 is now my beginning balance for 25. I also found that sometimes those beginning balances were not carried accurately. It could have been $450 and it carried as $405 or vice versa. Because, as you're doing that, there is human error. I make them as well.
Yeah. We just believe that the numerous checks on a monthly basis are going to catch those, rather than now having to go back over a whole year to find those kind of things. It's going to be much easier, along with involving the advisor and the reconciliation process.
Through the chair, I don't think we'll need it, but something like QuickBooks, would that pick, that's the only one I know about, but would that pick up and just move that to the next year instead of like having, or do you not have to with Excel, say 2024 to 2025, when you move it to the next year, do you have to physically put the number in, or does someone?
We physically start a next set of spreadsheets only because there's so many sub accounts.
Yeah.
And some of those sub accounts, you know, a class graduates, they have so long and then they withdraw the funds.
Gotcha.
So the clubs change. Most of them are pretty steady. But for instance, just at the high school right now, we have 22 active clubs. So to answer your question, I would need to look a little bit further into Quicken. But again,
QuickBooks is not going to
Won't do that.
Sorry, through the chair. That's not the one.
I don't know.
and there are various accounting software systems that are made for student activities. And again, discussing it with the auditor, the software is only as good as what we input. And people make, you can transpose numbers. I look at numbers all day long and it happens. I make those mistakes too. But with the checks and balances we're putting in place, we're going to be able to catch each other and say, oop, you know.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't purchase the software at some time. I did look into that a little bit. And the way it works is the cost of the software comes out of student activities as well. So some of them, you know, I looked at one that it's $7,000. To me, and the auditor, and not just me, the auditor said Excel is fine
Okay.
for what we're doing. But I'm not opposed to continuing to look at something because there might be something that gives us better reports.
I do think too, and we have talked about this, and I probably won't be here, but when this is all said and done and hashed out, you know, that's a good time then. Like
Yeah,
it wouldn't be a
let's
good
look
time
at-
now.
yeah,
We've got to
right.
get things so that we know exactly what we have, and then at some point it could be. It could make sense.
I mean, and those monthly meetings might just be enough, and we won't need to.
Correct.
And then, so what I had done, because I did not want to perpetuate this problem and to have these variances growing, I did make adjustments and audit adjustments so that we were matching the spreadsheet. And I'm sorry, so the spreadsheet was matching the bank statement, which is matching Munis. Because I knew there was a lot of typos and errors and things that had happened. And I didn't want us to get into a spot of overspending either or perpetuating the variances. So I made adjustments and audit adjustments to bring us in line with that. And so I did that by prioritizing funds from the inactive accounts and then also portions of beginning balances, because the beginning balances that came forward in 2019, we're not sure that they're completely accurate, because as I've gone back through all of these years, there is errors that will change beginning balances because the sub accounts have to total what's in the bank, if that makes sense.
And through the chair, that's what we're now going to go and look with each advisor to hopefully.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, awesome.
And then we've completed the reconciliation for all accounts where possible. So the other finding was we had some outdated policies and procedures. And so I reviewed and updated the manual to include all the required forms. And we proposed 2 policy updates to the school committee. One was approved, and then we have one to review tonight.
Through the chair, were there certain accounts where a lot of the money was wrong? Was there like a few, or was it just every single one?
Without having the spreadsheets right in front of me, to be honest, the clubs that have a lot of activity, those are the ones that had more errors, just because there's more room for error. So I wouldn't want to say.
It does seem to be a few
It does
that
seem
are
to be a
appearing
few.
that have the largest discrepancies.
And have we notified those advisors that there are discrepancies?
That's
in the account?
what we're going to start next. So,
Okay.
right, like we said, now we're going to take all of the work that Mrs. Stanek has done and go through it item by item with each advisor.
And through the chair, so that student activities policy procedure manual, we have nothing to do with that. Ours are the policies below, the fundraising ones and
Yeah.
the other one. Okay.
Correct. So at the back of the student activities procedure and policy manual is school committee policies. So any of those, obviously,
Right.
you approve. The manuals, it's just kind of like the to-dos and what you need
Those
to do.
we don't have to approve. Okay.
Finding number 3 was there was a lack of standardized systems and instructions. So, based on the audit recommendation, I converted all of the spreadsheets from Google Sheets to an Excel checkbook template. We have also created detailed instructions for student activity treasurers. So, operating manuals so that they know what is expected. Also, one of the areas that was noted in the audit as well is when somebody wants to purchase something, the secretary or the student activity treasurer puts in a requisition for the amount that they think it's going to cost. But then sometimes something might be on sale. So by the time the purchase order happens, the invoice comes in, we pay the invoice, there is at times a difference in price. So what was happening is they were not going back and adjusting it to exactly what we paid. It was the withdrawal was what the requisition had initially had been. Like, we think we're going to buy something for $50 and the bill came in for $48.72. So that was an area that we saw was a problem. So now we have monthly reports that are run through us that are sent to the student activity treasurers so they can ensure, okay, this was Staples, for instance, that changed from $45 to, $47. So that they can make sure that what is reflected in the spreadsheet is actually the invoice and the charge that we had. The withdrawal is the exact figure. Again, monthly meetings between myself and, well, actually at this point, it is on the calendar for monthly, but right now it has been a daily occurrence. So it's a daily occurrence and has been for quite some time, and it will be until we are at a good place. Finding number 4 was inadequate staff training and access to the policies. And so, again, this year, I conducted both the annual training sessions because some of this is a little bit confusing when it comes to school finance and what you need to do. So I conducted those trainings. I had every class advisor sign off that they attended. I had the administrators there as well as the student activity treasurers. I also conducted additional trainings for the student activity treasurers. We also created a special Google shared drive that has all of the student activity documents that they need. It has the policies and procedures manuals, but it also has like the deposit form that they can just click on and download and get very easily and readily available for them. And then my finding number 5 is always there's a need for ongoing internal audit and reconciliation. Again, we are doing that. I'm meeting with administrators, the student activity treasurers, so they understand everything. Right now, it's not a periodic. Today, like I said, it's a daily audit of these student activity accounts with all of those. And we did hold some individual meetings for staff when they got this year's spreadsheet and had questions. So we held those meetings. And now, again, we have gone back to 2019 and we are going transaction by transaction to see where we land. Again, the caveat is that those that had beginning balances that came forward in 2019, I can't say that those are the accurate beginning balances. We will conduct individual meetings with the advisors once all of this is complete to show them and to ask them. Also, they're going to be asked to bring their records to make sure we can match those up and go through everything with them. We're doing the monthly requisitions. I'm continuing to work with the auditor and scheduling the monthly meetings. And I do believe we will be in a better place. And some of the things that have already taken place and procedures the class advisors are doing a much better job, and I truly appreciate and thank them for completing the forms.
I've also heard from some of the advisors that they really like how the system is working because they have a better, firm understanding every month of what they have, because they get that monthly kind of check sheet to say, this is what you got, does it make sense? So several have said that they appreciate that. We also have some great staff working on all of this too in our building, so we want to recognize them. The treasurers in each of the building are doing a good job, so.
And I also want to add that some of these mistakes, unfortunately, we encourage student participation. And some of the human error is from student participation. And we certainly don't want to deter students from stepping forward and helping. We're trying to teach them about finances and how to run these clubs. So, we've got to keep that in mind too.
Yeah.
Yes, through the chair, there's, a student treasurer for many of these as well, and which is great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Are there any questions about where we currently are in my preliminary audit?
Through the chair, what about groups that maybe the advisor's no longer with us, or do they have to hold on to all their receipts for 7 years or something like that, to make sure that both things are right? Are they going to have that data to be able to provide? I don't know.
We're not sure.
Okay.
We're not sure what they're going to have for records.
Okay.
But we also want to give, because we know a couple that we met with in the fall have very lengthy records. They
Right.
really kept a
Yeah.
lot, right?
Yeah.
So we want to give everybody that chance. And if they don't have it, we just want to make sure that they agree that all of the entries that we've made were attributed to their club.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we're really not sure, because I think some of them rely a lot on this main spreadsheet that's run by the treasurer
Right.
for what's there, So we're not sure yet what they'll come with for records.
Okay.
And through the chair, the student activity treasurer is one of the admins in each building,
Yes.
and they are the ones that check it with Munis. Or that's,
They do check against Munis once a month for all the expenditures.
okay.
Well, we provide them with the report from Munis at their building to check against
Yeah.
Munis.
Yeah.
For the chair, is it an admin or a secretary?
Administrative assistant.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay.
And we are heavily involving the principals in these meetings because there was somewhat of a separation a little bit, it was, well, they take care of that. But the principal has to be in tune with what's in these accounts, what people have, how much they have, what they're using it for. That's part of their responsibility too. So that's why we're pulling them into a lot of these meetings also, so that they have a good understanding of what's there and how things should be done.
Do we want to get these principals bonded? Is that something we should be looking into?
They should be bonded through the town. We tried to get verification of that today, and we didn't get to ask her that today, but we'll find that out. That is part of our policies. That's always been that way. I know when I was a principal at Bryn Mawr, I knew I was bonded. I didn't have a lot of money. I think I had $200 once in a while that I had in a little. Yes.
And through the chair, can we notify all teachers at both Auburn High and Auburn Middle School or advisors about this coming up, even though the middle school, we're not quite there yet?
So we didn't want to notify anyone about anything till we met tonight.
Okay.
But the intention is that we'll send out an email tomorrow regarding what's been done, where we're at, how we can go about scheduling meetings.
Great.
Hoping, we'll do everything we can to do it at their convenience with what works for them. And then we'll go to them, if they want to meet during their prep at the school, we'll go to the school and meet them there. So, yes, we just didn't want to do any of that till we spoke with all of you tonight.
So moving forward, will there be a checklist of things that you've accomplished kind of thing from each agenda? Kind of an overview of this list here and what you've done you guys have worked together to accomplish is that something we can?
I just want to make sure I understand what you're asking for, more so than what we've provided? Or you want?
I want to see a continuation of progress.
Yes, absolutely.
I think the big
Any
thing next is
conversation.
going to be a lot of numbers. right? So we hope that at the next meeting, we'll have met with maybe one or two advisors and come to some kind of an understanding. And we can say, this is where we landed with this account. This is where we believe they started. This is what was found for variance. This is what they brought to the table, and this is where we ended up. So we're hoping to now be able to do some of that work that we've, and the processes and the procedures are going to continue. So, if you want something like that, we had our monthly meeting, if it's appropriate, when the meeting falls with the principal and the treasurer, or whatever it might be, we can certainly provide an update on those kind of things too. But I think moving forward, the next number of meetings will be more sub-account based. As we work to get to that rectifying each of those accounts.
Through the chair, just really quick. So you're coming through, you're getting all of the numbers. What happens if the numbers are like we have extra? Like there's extra money, like somehow you started at the beginning of the year class of 2025, you've paid everything and whatever, and now you have realized that the balance that they have in the bank is $10,000 and you have $5,000, where it's like, well, we have plus $5,000. Do you know what I mean? Like you've rectified everything that we've paid and there's still, the balance is not matching, but it's in the positive instead of in the negative.
From your mouth to God's ears, let's hope that that's what happens.
Okay.
But that would be the decision of the committee to determine what would happen with that money in relation to, it would have to go back into student activities. You correct me if we couldn't use it for anything else. It would go back into student activities in some capacity. You would have to determine how that would be distributed, but it would stay with the kids because it is
Obviously,
money from the kids. Yeah,
But with monthly meetings, hopefully that doesn't happen.
correct. But we'll always take extra.
Yeah, right.
That's what I'm saying.
I
I'm
don't know
I'm
if
gonna
that's gonna
stay
be
in the
the
silver
case.
lining and the positive, and it's extra money. We have extra.
All right.
All right.
Any more questions or discussions or comments or anything from the board?
I just want to thank all the advisors for continuing to work with the kids. I know there's a lot of,
Yep.
I know this is a lot, and the advisors are doing a great job with the kids, and thank you for that, and thank you for all the work.
Yeah, if we didn't have clubs and student activities, it would be a very sad thing. It's a huge part of the fabric of our school community. So definitely thank all of them. I also want to thank you two gentlemen for honestly, showing us we have a lot of work to do. And I think we're taking ownership of it. We're doing the best we can. And improvements are going to be made, and we're going to document the improvements and make sure we're more transparent. And certainly as a board, I think we should expect more, So,
Chair, I have several questions. If you indulge.
isn't that breaking my open meeting was?
It's not a typical protocol. And I haven't been to town meetings where that's really the case either.
Doing said no.
So, Mr. Richards, I know you posed a lot of questions already. I do have a couple more comments, and I know that we spoke yesterday. Would that be a time that, if there are specific things we could go through?
It's completely up to you. I have questions about some of the things you discussed here tonight, and I'm happy to make them publicly. And we'll continue to be in dialogue with you after.
Okay,
This is an open process.
Okay.
Sure. It's not adversarial in any way.
yep,
But I personally do have a number of questions beyond, what was sent. And some of the things that were discussed tonight, and some clarifications, maybe because I'm a fairly simple man, I may not have understood completely. So, but that's up to you.
I mean, I would say, could you either send them in an email or through a phone call, and then we can address those questions and answer them the next meeting?
If that's your preference.
Yes,
Yeah,
I think
that works.
without breaking open meeting laws and all that, I would rather keep it very, by the book. So,
I did just have a couple other things I wanted
Yes.
to add, if I could, Madam Chair.
absolutely.
So in relation to student activities, we did receive 3 public records requests, which we complied with in the appropriate timeline. I did have on here about Unified Sports, but we talked about that earlier, that it's a revolving account, not a student activities account. all donations that we've received since July of '24 and prior to that have been brought to the committee for acceptance, right? That was some of the questions that were out on whether it was social media or elsewhere. But all the donations have been recorded and applied appropriately to the accounts where they belong. Let's see. I mentioned it earlier. Any accounts that we believe qualify for closure will be brought to the next meeting for approval by the committee. Scanlon and Associates have been our longtime audit firm. They also work with the town. They have been very involved in supporting us. They support what we're doing. They support the steps that we're taking to make sure that we work this all out. All deposits to student activities accounts, as Ms. Stanek had said, are processed through the treasurer. They're recorded in Munis and in our spreadsheets. The withdrawals go through the warrant process or the student activity checkbook when a vendor won't take a purchase order, but they're still recorded in Munis or the spreadsheet. And this will be an ongoing agenda item for the foreseeable future until we all feel satisfied that we've made the progress that we needed to make. So it's just there had been some questions out online and questions that were sent to me, so I just wanted to kind of put those things out there.
So through the chair, so Unified is not student activities, revolving account. So where does that money come from?
So some of the Unified, we got some from Special Olympics. That was some time ago. And I think was there a donation?
Through the chair, there were donations from prior classes to Unified.
Okay.
But those were set up as separate revolving accounts.
Awesome. Okay.
Unified is not included in student activities.
Awesome.
Okay, and then a couple questions that I would like to address and answer. One question was, why did we change our meeting time to 5:30? I just want to say we have many weeks, we have young kids that present here, third graders, kindergartners, as well as the teachers that accompany them. We felt 5:30 was a decent time to start so those kids and teachers could get home with their own families. I also want to point out the superintendent before you changed it to 6 o'clock. So we made it a half hour earlier to accommodate those other reasons. We also have student reps here and they go on to sports and clubs after this. So we felt it was very important to be able to get home and do your homework or attend what they wanted to attend. And then do we get a stipend and how much do we get? That would be a zero. We get nothing. We get nothing. We are volunteers and we have families and we jobs and we do this as a volunteer. Do we get paid for summer meetings? That would be no, we do not. We will meet in the summer if we have to, which is rare because there's not much business done over the summer. Maybe that will be different this summer because we have a new superintendent coming in and Jen is working diligently on other things. So those are the two questions that I just wanted to address. And I just want to stress again, we're doing the best we can. We will not be conducting business or running school districts through Facebook or social media. So I certainly, my phone, I will put my phone number out there and you already have it. You're welcome to call me and ask me any questions. Dr. Chamberlain, you are an open book. You're the most transparent superintendent we've ever had, I feel. And Jen, you are so knowledgeable in trying to fix these things. And I know you're an open book about this too. We have nothing to hide. I can honestly say from the depths of my soul and heart that nothing malicious was done and nothing illegal was done. So that's all I have. And we can move on to the next thing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next two items for business, one is the Southern Worcester County FY25 financial audit, and the next is the Assabet Valley Collaborative Financial Audit and Annual Report. As you know, this comes up typically each quarter, then there's another report once a year that comes. These are collaboratives that we work with. In some cases, we send our students there for special education services when needed, and so they were required by law to present this to you in a formal meeting. I will say in both cases, we partner most heavily with the Southern Worcester County Collaborative, also known as GROW, in Dudley, where a number of our students attend. They do fabulous work. They are a great resource. They provide some terrific professional development. They provide some great modeling for working with complex students. And so we're fortunate to have a collaboration with each of these organizations. So I just share that with you for your information. I take any questions if you have any.
Yeah, they do a ton for us. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
Are a great organization. Any questions or comments for Dr. Chamberlain about that audit? No. Moving on.
Now, the next item I will turn over to Member Raphael. That is her item.
So this has been on my back burner for a while, and the reason why is just because when I decided that I wanted to request a policy review subcommittee, it was actually something that was discussed at the MASC conference, and then the MASC conference happened. As you guys know, privately, that was a very busy time for me. And then the holidays came up, and then more holidays came up. So, and then we were interviewing a new superintendent. So it kind of fell on my back burner. My apologies on that. But MASC, one of the things that I went to was just talking about policy, and I spent a little bit of time reviewing some of our policies and just realizing that whether or not they have been reviewed in the last certain amount of years, the data in our policies is saying older than it is. And I know that that Dr. Chamberlain, chair and vice chair, had looked at some of these policies already. But I just want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that's really meant to be like going through it. So I'm requesting that we create a policy subcommittee that will just kind of take the stress off of like Dr. Chamberlain to like bring up things that might not be on the radar. And so what I did is I created a very lovely binder. And I have the MASC policies in the back and our policies in the front, just to kind of be able to compare and contrast them. And then what I'm hoping is that the policy subcommittee can look at the policies and see where they either are the same or differ from MASC. And then from there, we can, like, if there's subtle changes, we can bring them up and say, it's the recommendation of the policy subcommittee just to, accept it at first read, or this
Sam,
is.
can you hold on a minute? It's hard to concentrate. I'm going to wait for the conversation to finish.
Madam Chair, we used to have a concern, someone who's supposedly watching this meeting at home is saying it's not being broadcast. So we were just checking with.
Okay. Thank you.
I did get that as well. There's a streaming issue.
Everything is going out here correctly. So if they wish to call Christopher Hugo, I can give him his number. He's still at the office, and he may answer their question.
Mandy, might you do that? I can do that. Mandy will do that. Mandy will reach out to Chris.
Give you his number if you want.
Mandy will do it,
It's
Reg.
going out live according to I know. and-
Okay.
But it is being recorded.
I'm sorry?
It is being recorded.
Yeah, and it's being recorded, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know one of the other committees had a similar, one of the other committees in town had a similar problem, and they did post the recording afterwards.
Yes, there has been problems.
Yeah,
I know everything is going out according to what.
okay, and Mandy will text Chris.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'm sorry, but thank you.
No, thank you. Okay, go ahead, Sam.
Chairman, just to caution you, if it's supposed to be broadcast and it's not being broadcast, regardless if it's being recorded, you may be violating open meeting law. So in some cases, when you get information that broadcast or even a hybrid meeting isn't taking place, you really should suspend the meeting and or not take any votes.
Yeah, this isn't a hybrid meeting.
And or.
I just don't know that we can,
He hasn't responded to me yet. I can go out and call him.
okay. We'll take a short, we can wait a few minutes.
Yeah, we'll take a recess. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We were notified that it was not streaming correctly. This meeting was not streaming, but then we just got notification that it is being shown live on channel 194. Yes, and my husband actually verified that just a second ago. He is watching. So, all right, so let's continue with the agenda.
Okay, so I'll just go back in case any of my was missing. But going back to November when a couple of us attended MASC, one of the things I attended was about policy, and I thought it was really interesting. And then I started to look at policy, but again, personally, that was a very busy time for us, my family. So as a result, my fault, fell by the wayside, and then we started interviewing for new super, so I put it on the back burner. So it is back, that I'm requesting that we have a policy subcommittee, more so just to like look through everything, and just try to make sure that our policies are up to date with MASC. The MASC was last reviewed in 2022, those policies, and some of our policies are older than that. So I would like to see us looking at them, seeing where there's differences, seeing where we can make sure that our policies are congruent with MASC, and if we need to make our policies slightly different, because we are obviously different than other school districts, that we need to like make sure they're, kosher and everything. So what I would like to do is kind of take that onus and stress off of Dr. Chamberlain and kind of put it to a policy subcommittee, two of us, and that we can look through it and we can bring up policies. We can say that, for example, one policy that I've looked at already had minor, like instead of it saying school district in MASC, it said school system in MASC. And what I determined was that doesn't really affect the policy itself, the language, how it was written. And it also said like with the intent of the school committee, it said instead the school committee's intent. So the wording is similar. We could literally say was reviewed on this date and then update the date so that people know that we are looking at these policies. And so, like I said, I made my own handy dandy binder with the MASC and our policies and so I can look at them side by side. And that's all I want to do. I just want to go through from start to finish and kind of like look through them and just make sure they're up to date and that they make sense. Because like I said, 2022 was the last time MASC was updated. And then they do put on their main page, like recent policy update. And I just want, like, we should have people that are paying attention to that. And I don't feel like it should fall on the superintendent. They're so busy. So it can fall on us, it can fall on the subcommittee, we can kind of divvy it up and we can come up with, whoever's on the policy subcommittee can come up with like a calendar and we're going to go through A, B, and C this year. And then we're going to do D, and there are hundreds. So I just ask that the public be aware that I went through like multiple reams of paper and multiple ink cartridges. And so I just want them to be aware that there's hundreds of them. So it's not going to be a quick process. And some of them need 3 reads. Some of them might just be a language change. Like, hey, we're bringing this to you. We just need a language change. So that's really all I wanted to do for that. And I think it's important that we do it and that we look through them and just make sure they're up to date. So
Through the chair, I think Steph would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
She's just really good with the nitty gritty. And I did ask her on our little recess if it was.
Yeah.
That's your jam. So
Yeah.
sorry.
And I know you might be absent in a couple meetings coming up, but this is something you can still do behind the scenes.
I am so excited about this honor that you have bestowed upon me.
Well, there you go, Sam.
appreciate
You have
you.
your club.
okay. So
So we need a vote.
we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to appoint Samantha Raphael and Steph Parker to the new policy review subcommittee.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You want me to make you a binder?
Yeah.
I think maybe, yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe we'll just meet at Donkey's on a Sunday and go over it.
Has to be posted.
And they have a conference room at Dunkies. You ever see that? It's all glass now.
Yeah,
Meet
it's
with my
good.
students, yeah.
I like it.
All right, we'll move on
So
to.
just quickly through
Oh,
the chair,
sorry.
I will be asking, I don't know if I asked Mandy or Dr. Chamberlain, like what the protocols are for that. So I will just kind of pick your ear.
Andy's got it.
Mandy, yeah.
Mandy.
We went through it with the superintendent search, so.
I will pick your ear on that before we do.
But we don't have quorum with 2.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, meetings will be kept, minutes will be kept and everything, so, okay.
I'm going to thank you every single meeting.
Thank her, it's her idea. All right, we will move on to policy updates.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the first one I have in here is JJE. You have seen this policy before. We brought this earlier in the year. We continue to do some research with some of the folks that do some fundraising here in the district, as well as going back to some very newly updated MASC policies related to raffles and games of chance and how that impacts fundraising. So this is a first read. I put it on as a first read, even though we've seen it before, because it's dramatically changed. So I think everybody needs the time to really review, because that is a big change. We also received a legal advisory from MASS regarding this, as very important that we institute the piece about any kind of gambling or games of chance that cannot be run by students or by staff unless they are serving in the capacity of like a parent on a booster club or that kind of thing. So they're in that capacity, not capacity of a staff. So we have more time to go through this. I suspect that, you may need time to review, but this will go for 3 reads.
Okay, and do the stakeholders know what's coming? Are they aware of these changes? I assume does this include PTO? Or is that a separate?
Well,
Stakeholders in the schools, I'd want.
I just want people to know, the people that this is going to affect, I want them to know.
Okay, well, we can make sure that that gets shared out. The piece about the gambling and all of that, we can let them know. We have no choice in that. It is
Right. It's like a
illegal.
mandate.
It's illegal for us to offer that. And I don't believe that's something that happens frequently, but I believe it does happen, and it can happen as long as it happens appropriately. But certainly we can share this out and get feedback from staff, because we have time now, because this will be with us for the next couple of meetings. And I did, as far as the PTO goes, I know the last time when this came to you, so the second to the last paragraph, there was, so the PTO often does do something where kids may receive prizes, right? Or in order to sell whatever. And our PTO, we rely heavily on them for a lot of things. So if you'll see, right, we changed some things to should not involve competition, and we should try and not do that. But if that's something that has to happen, we just want to make sure it happens appropriately, and that they try to lean on more class kind of rewards if they can, right? So to encourage that move, but not mandate it, I guess, if that makes sense. So we did try and take some of the feedback we received from the committee when this came previously to make it a little less restrictive, I guess.
Great.
Because they do raise a ton of money by
Correct.
doing those extracurriculars
Yes, they do.
for those classes. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Any questions or comments concerning? Yes.
I do. I just had one, and it was just with the first one about the annual training for the representative.
Yes.
Does that have to be done at a certain time of year, or you're doing it once a month so anybody can do it? And
I think we can do it as it needs to happen. It's just to make sure that people understand these kind of things.
I just wanted to make sure, because it just was like annual training, and annual sometimes they're like, oh no, I've done that. When? You know what I mean? Like, do they have to do it every September, or do they have to do it?
Like every fiscal year.
Right. Like, is there like once a year annual training? Is this just one and done? Every
I don't know
2
that we
years?
can do one and done, because
Things
people change in these organizations sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Like the PTO might change, and it might not be, if it changes after we do a training in September, we can't say, oh,
Never mind.
too bad,
Yeah.
or never mind. We still have to provide that. So I think that'll have to be worked out.
I was just thinking like as part of like a new hire orientation, like this is part of that. So everybody's seen it once, whether you are the representative or not, you've seen it, you've looked at it, you know that you can't do raffle basket, whatever, casino, something. I just,
The chair, most of the fundraising that happens is through student activities, and that would be part of their annual training that happens at the beginning of the school year for the advisors.
That is true. So the PTO would be an outlier.
But
But in large part, that's a great point. They are our staff already.
maybe we can add that then, that it's part of the
Okay.
student activities.
Yep.
See, that's why you're going to be on.
I don't want to leave any like misinterpretation of when you say something, right? Everything needs to be equitable. If this is for the kids, this is why we're doing this.
Yep.
Correct.
You know, for
Yep.
free.
Yep.
You know? So
Yep.
I want to make sure that everybody can understand it, that it's clearly, so when you look at it, it goes, they need English 10 to graduate from high school. Got it. Like, do you see what I mean? Simple, that's the answer. Check the box.
Yep.
Move on.
For sure.
So,
Love that.
Fair enough.
okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
The next policy goes back to Sam.
Okay, so I have included in your packet for its file BGC. It's actually our policy on policy revision and review. The first page is the new recommended policy, which the only addition is the added underlined with the goal that each policy be reviewed at least once every 5 years. If you flip over the second page, this is the current MAS policy. It does not give a time frame. So I do want to clarify that we are making ours a little bit stricter. It says review its policies on a regular basis. That is unclear. So I put every 5 years. I am open to a discussion on whether or not 5 is too little or 5 is too much, although I again caution that there are hundreds of policies and it may take us more than 5 years to get through them. There's a lot. I mean, a lot. And then the current Auburn policy is basically same thing. It's basically a carbon copy of the MASC policy.
Through the chair, I think it's great. I think once every 5 years or as needed.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. As needed.
Or as needed, yeah.
Because not or.
And as needed, sorry.
I don't know. And the only other concern I have is that book. It's going to take you a long time to get through that. So if we approve this now, then are we out of policy compliance? So I want to make sure we start fresh, if that makes sense. So maybe hold off until we get through the book.
That's not a bad idea.
Just
But then the problem that's going to arise is if we put a date on it and we review all these policies in 2025, in 2030, someone is really going to hate me. So
valid.
So maybe
But not all of those have to be reviewed. I bet there's some in there.
It's blue, so she's
They
gonna hate
definitely
you.
are. There are some that you're going to find that they may have updated it, like you were saying earlier, that MASC may have updated it and they just updated the date. It's
Yeah.
the exact same policy. There are many that you come across that are like that.
And so if that's the case, my plan, I have to discuss it with Steph, is just to like make a list of those and say like, these are the following 25 policies that are exactly the same.
Yep.
We're not touching them, but we would like to update our records to say they were reviewed in 2025. So with that said, I think we should, as you said, we don't want to be out of compliance on policies, and we will be. So maybe we should wait until we go through the entire book and then change BGC.
That's what I just want to make sure we're in compliance.
And we won't be if we change this now.
That's my thought.
So I say we table it.
And that just popped into my head.
And hey, listen, I'm for it. Like, I was thinking about it as I'm driving. I think about policy. It's weird. But I was driving and I was like, wait, I think this might be too little because we have to go through everything. But I think by creating a policy subcommittee, we're going to start looking through it. And like I said, one of the policies I looked for, the wording is so close, you don't even have to change it. You can say we reviewed, it looks fine, and we can come up with that list and explain like these either have, I mean, the intention of the school committee versus the school committee intent is the same wording.
Yeah.
It doesn't change the legality of the policy.
So through the chair, since you have I have volunteered for this, I would like to see what the MASC has for their systematic plan and their guidelines, because I am in the process of writing one for the Board of Nursing too. So this is fun. And they have policies that they have to be reviewed annually. Once a year, everybody has to come together and say, yes, I agree on the fundraising. It is the same as last year. But then there are others that are every 3 years or every 5 years. So there are some that they do have to look at it has more to do with like meeting minutes and who is going to chair that meeting, because you can only chair it for 3 years before you have to hand the reins over, right?
It would stagger things too if you did it that way.
Right. So there's, I think that the MASC probably has a guideline for reviewing
look into that.
policies instead of,
I'll look into that and I can.
because I think that that's where we're going to be up against, where it's going to be one, we just have to all come together in September and go, nothing has changed. We spoke with Desi. This is the requirements. Check, 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 check. And then there are others that we don't have to look at. Right? We can look at it.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to MASC and find that out. I'm sure there's someone I could reach out to there that will.
Great idea.
That is a good idea.
It's just makes life a lot easier.
Overwhelming.
Yeah,
Well,
it is.
but
I mean,
there-
Because we did it, not last year, the year before, and it's overwhelming.
yeah.
But there are some that you have to put eyes on, you know?
Absolutely. Like I think the fundraising one is a good one to think about, and like,
Yeah.
because things change, right? Because when I first started teaching 20 years ago, like they were like, do a raffle. It was like raffle for everybody.
Use my arm 'cause it was the
50-50, yeah,
longest.
use your
Yeah.
arm. So I think that like, and then I remember somewhere in those 20 years, they were like, no raffles. I remember we did one. And they're like, you're not supposed to, and we're like, oh my god, sorry, we didn't know.
Yeah.
So the rules
Yeah.
do change. So.
Right.
So, and sometimes they change year to year. So I will reach out to MASC and then I can get back to you.
There should be like guidelines, because everything's numbered, so it's not like we're starting from.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Sam.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
So we're tabling that BGC. Got it.
But we still have the committee formed, so that's good. All right, Mr. Keller, you're up to bat. You ready?
I think so, yes. Thank you. So I wanted first, Ms. Parker, I wanted to acknowledge that you noticed that English 10 is a requirement. So thank you for referencing that from the competency determination policy.
You got to get a shout out for that one.
So it dawned on me during the superintendent search process that a lot of the candidates that we interviewed talked about restorative justice and restorative practices. And I think I may have mentioned it over the years in terms of staff getting summer training on it. But I thought it might be a good opportunity to talk a little. I didn't realize it would be almost 2 hours into a school committee meeting. However, I thought it might be a nice opportunity to tell you a little bit about what restorative practices are and what we have done for the past several years. So it has become a popular buzzword in education. There's no question about it. It's one of those things that you hear on a regular basis. But I think it is one of those things that is, oh no, I think it's one of those things that is it the, I'll have to go up there. No, that's okay. I'll go if that's all right.
You want me to go?
No, I'll do it.
You know how much we love your PowerPoint.
I know, especially on a long night. So it's one of those things that I think is really can be life-changing in terms of what we do in schools. Restorative practices and restorative justice have their roots in indigenous cultures, coming together as a community, building community, meeting in a circle, and then also when a harm is done, having conversations and talking about that harm and how we repair that harm. Dr. Ross Green is somebody who really kind of took like collaborative problem solving and brought it into school systems. So, there's two quotes up here. He's written several books, one being The Explosive Child, the other being Lost at School. He's also did a documentary called The Kids We Lose. A lot of it is, The Explosive Child is not the best title in the world, but referring to those kids who struggle with behaviors and struggle to be seated for 50 minutes in a class at a time and go to the next class and sit for another 50 minutes, and how we can help support those students. So these are two pretty powerful statements and, reminders that when we're working with kids, nobody sets out to have a difficult day and to harm another child. At its core, there are three main tenets of restorative practice, restorative justice. The first being accountability. That is our job is to help teach responsibility. We don't want to just create compliant individuals. We want kids to be responsible. The second being safety and belonging. And of course, we want students to feel safe to learn, and we want students to feel as though they matter. And the last piece is the competency development. And I'll get into this when we talk a little bit about punishments and consequences. Schools still need to have consequences. One of the criticisms against restorative practices is that we're going soft on kids. But ultimately, it's our job to teach. We want kids to learn from experiences, not just to receive punishment. And so a big part of what restorative practices do is kind of frame this around how can we teach kids skills? How can we help them learn to have conversations face to face with somebody that they did something not nice to? And so I talked a little bit about this, but there's two tiers to restorative practices. The first is how we are proactive and how we kind of build community within our classroom, within our school. The second is reactive, and when something happens in the classroom, in the school, how do we repair harm for what is done? And so there's kind of this example here of, when we have high control versus high support. So when we do stuff to students, we're using high control and low support, and we're saying you did something wrong, I'm going to punish you. When we do things for kids, it's permissive and it's low control, high support. I excuse you. It's okay that you did that thing. When we do things that are neglectful or not, we have low control and low support, so I'm just ignoring you. The last thing is really what restorative practices are all about, and that is doing things with students. So we have high control and we have high support. So we're saying this thing happened and it's unfortunate and it's bad, but we're going to figure this out together. We're going to get through this. And there's a famous phrase that I repeat regularly, and that's the only way to get through something is to go through something. We can't just ignore it or turn the other way. So I'll start, as I've talked about this, with tier 1. So that is around circles. So this is something that we've been doing since the summer of 2023, having our staff be trained in tier 1. And that we literally sit around. We've done this as an admin team. I know staff, principals have done this. Ms. Stanek has done it at her building, as well as all the other principals, getting together and having people go around in a circle and talking about themselves. And we all learn about one another, and we build that community together. Everyone's equal. Everyone can be seen. And there is typically a talking piece. And so the only person that can talk is the one that has that talking piece. And it varies as to what kind of things somebody might use. They might use, whether it be I've seen in Mr. Berg's class at the high school. Actually, I don't remember. I think they used just a marker because he was doing something that's relatively quick. But there's different types of circles that can be done. A check-in, what's one high and low from your weekend? It could be academic. What is one question you have about the chapter that we just read? I just mentioned Mr. Berg at the high school. One of the circles I observed, they were preparing for a test. And so the kids were talking about one of the things that they still have some questions about. And then kids were actually able to talk about how they learned about that concept or how they were able to do it. And the last piece is, how can we solve the issue of the messy classroom? So let's talk as a community. This place is a mess. What can we do about it? So now so that's tier 1, and that's all about building community, and the power of learning from one another. And there is something on my notes that I just wanted to mention in that. So 80% of what we do is focused around tier 1. We want to be proactive and build that community so that when 20% of the time when things go awry, that we as teachers, that we as a community have the social capital to be able to work with them, that we have that relationship. We've developed those relationships so that kids can trust us as we move forward. And we're able to have those hard conversations. The other piece about going back to tier 1 for a second really quick is that when a conflict happens in the classroom, the goal is not for the teacher to always correct the student and to say this is what you need to do, but for the students to be able to have conversations with one another. So building that ability among students to be able to talk to one another, to be able to look at each other in the eye and know that that person might be going through something, what have you. It's very powerful when you see it in that place. So shifting now kind of into the tier 2 and tier 3 parts of restorative practices, we get into disciplinary. So tier 2 and tier 3 are when something has happened in the classroom. Tier 2 is typically a smaller event, like there's a messy classroom or someone broke something of someone else. Tier 3 is those more significant consequences that might happen in a school. But the traditional disciplinary practices in schools, from an adult perspective, they can be really exhausting and really stressful, anxiety producing. They create more distance between us and students because ultimately sometimes we're just saying, hey, you did this thing and it's really bad and you're going to be suspended for multiple days. From a student perspective, if I'm hearing that, I did something bad, I'm going to be suspended, there's limited skill development, we're focused on the broken school rules, we're creating more distance, there's not much of a learning perspective, and there's ultimately this unequal power relationship. In tier 2 and tier 3, we focus on what happened, who's been effective and how, what needs to be done, and how to make things right. How do we need to move forward? instead of what rule has been broken, who did it, what's the consequence, why did you do that? And we try to focus in restorative practices in the tier 2 and tier 3 on not asking the question of why. Why can naturally lead to somebody being defensive and saying, I did it because he started it, or things like that. So we try and focus on those top 4 questions. And again, I want to just mention that a lot of the criticism around restorative practices is that it's soft. There are still times when we give a consequence, like a suspension, a detention, or what have you. And oftentimes we're doing it hand in hand. We're saying, okay, here's the school consequence, but you also are going to have to do this thing. And that is to be able to talk to that child and be able to talk to the classroom about what you did. And that is, a lot of times I will speak from my own personal experience of having a child have to do this kind of thing. That was much harder for him to actually face the people that he harmed than it was for him to learn that he was going to be receive a detention or what have you. You probably can't see this, it's in front of you, but it's already kind of what I touched on, a punitive environment versus a restorative environment. I actually can't even read it up here, but misbehavior is defined as breaking a school rule, and restorative misbehavior is defined as a harm done to a person or group or another. In a punitive, I won't read all these, but we focus on what happened and establishing blame or guilt, versus restorative, we focus on problem solving by expressing feelings and needs and exploring how to address the problems in the future. So the last thing I'll just say is there are people in the district, everybody that's gone to the training, and we've had this training started from Suffolk University, has said it's some of the best professional development that they've had. It's been, for the past 3 summers, we've had 20 people in each session. We're limited to 20 people go through those trainings, and we're able to see it taking place in the schools. People that have been very excited about it. Actually, this past summer did some work on it to make sure that we move this forward as a initiative, like UDL, that it's not just a one-time thing, but we keep it alive and well with those people who receive the training and continuing to train people in restorative practices. This past year, we did a tier 2 training where we had 20 people go through that. And we're going to offer that again this summer for tier 2 training, and then also some tier 3 training for a select group that might be counselors, school psychologists, and administrators. This past summer, we also had 2 staff members trained in tier 1. So we did 2 tier 1 sessions this past summer. Those 2 people attended tier 1 as kind of what we call a third chair. So they worked with the trainers. And then the second tier 1 training that they did, they actually led some of the training. So they are now trained from Suffolk University to be trainers in our district. So we don't have to have Suffolk coming in any longer to do the tier 1 training. So A, there's a cost savings there. And B, having our own people trained in this and learning and being able to teach our own staff has been pretty exciting. So it's an important initiative. Like I said, it is, it ties into something that you've heard Dr. Chamberlain talk a lot about, and that is making students feel connected and involved and seen and heard, and making staff feel that way as well. So I wanted to share a little bit about that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Here, so is it pretty even throughout all the schools?
Yeah, so the first year it was heavy on high school and middle school, and that was both in terms of the numbers of staff there, and wanted to make sure that. But we had, we kind of looked at the number of staff at each building, so we have more naturally middle school and high school teachers, and therefore we have more teachers from those schools trained in that. But Bryn Mawr is actually, because I was actually really pushing on Brooke Beverly this past year, but she really doesn't have that many people left to go, because that's obviously a smaller staff. And at Packagug, it's a very similar situation. So we're continuing to move forward, but we're getting close to having nearly everybody trained in that.
A lot of adults could use these social skills as well.
Yes, yeah. It's powerful.
Do we give those teachers a stipend, the ones that are teaching other teachers?
Yes. Yep.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, Mrs. Stanek.
All right,
Move
so
on to you for business and financial.
the first item on the agenda was the student activity audit reports, what we discussed earlier.
All done with that.
So that was for your information. And then the last thing is I provided you with a year-to-date budget report for the FY26 school year dated December 30th. for your review, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions or discussion? Seeing none? All right. We do need executive session tonight, so I need a motion for that.
I'll make the motion pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, subsection 21A2, to adjourn into executive session in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel who will not return to open session.
I will second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Aye.
Yes. Myself, yes.
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 All right, it is a vote. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.
Hi.
Good night.